But you believed. You believed that in this moment, our state could be bolder.
A historic moment for Maryland.
And it's because you believed that I stand here humbled and ready to become the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland.
Wes Moore becoming the first black governor of the state.
We stand divided, we cannot win. But if we stand united, we cannot lose.
And Aruna Miller becoming the first woman of color and first immigrant as lieutenant governor.
We're in America, the land of opportunity, where dreams do come true.
You're watching DC News Now's special coverage of Maryland's historic inauguration.
The station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our special and historic Maryland inauguration coverage. I'm Mark Hall. It's certainly an historic day in Maryland. It's certainly an historic day as we get ready to see Governor-elect Wes Moore and Lieutenant Governor-elect Aruna Miller take the oath of office. Taking a live look right now in Annapolis, Maryland. And we're in less than 30 minutes away from history. The event expected to draw large crowds, and that is where we have our team coverage today. DC News Now's Annalisa Gale, Leonard N. Fleming, and Randy Bass will be live throughout the show, along with live interviews as we prepare for a new chapter in the Old Line State. Annalisa, let's start with you. What kind of ceremony are we expecting to see today?
Mark, it's a really vibrant mood here in Annapolis. Was a little loud just a moment ago because we were hearing from a Puerto Rican band here. I'm going to step out of the way. This section is mainly for lawmakers who have arrived here. We saw some council members arriving from Montgomery County to be here for Moore's inauguration today, as well as lots of people who knew him and supported his campaign. On my way here on the bus with others, after we went through a security sweep, we were bussed in on a shuttle. I encountered some of his classmates who said they knew that this moment would come because they said that Moore was someone who displayed characteristics of someone who would one day become this person, the first black governor of Maryland. And we know also that Moore tweeted this morning that he spent his day by first starting at the Kunta Kinte Alex Haley Memorial in Annapolis to lay a wreath there. That's where 2 centuries ago he said that enslaved people arrived in this country against their will. He also said that today acknowledging that he will be inaugurated on this historic day at the state capitol, built by their hands. And today is a testament to the fact that progress is not inevitable. That's what he said there on Twitter this morning. Lots of folks still walking into this area. They're still coming in right now. Again, there is a security sweep that is usually done near the parking lots not far away from here, about a mile. And lots of them very excited to be here today. The weather not too bad here at the Capitol today in Annapolis. And so it's a perfect day for the inauguration, Mark.
Talk a little bit about some of the folks that maybe you've talked to just in passing. A lot of optimism, a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation. Talk about what folks are saying. All right, well, for some who may not know who Wes Moore is, Moore will become the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland. Moore will become Maryland's first black governor. Now, the governor-elect is a combat veteran, best-selling author, a small business owner, and former CEO of one of the nation's largest anti-poverty organizations. Moore is a Maryland native born in Tacoma Park. He graduated from Valley Forge Military College back in 1998. Wes Moore is a combat veteran, a best-selling author, a small business owner, and former CEO, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the nation's largest anti-poverty organizations. And again, Moore was born in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Well, some of the hope and anticipation around Wes Moore's win and inauguration today comes from Maryland's 2 youngest delegates. DC News Now's government and political reporter Leonard N. Fleming caught up with them this morning. Good morning, Leonard. How are things going?
Good morning, Mark. Yeah, things are going great. As you can hear, there's a lot of music and excitement here with the inauguration of Wes Moore, as you mentioned, the 63rd governor in Maryland and the first African-American ever in state history. And yes, we interviewed today the two youngest delegates, Joe Vogel and Jeffrey Long. And here's our conversation that we had with him about Wes Moore and his agenda and their agenda earlier today.
Here in Annapolis, as Inauguration Day festivities get underway here in just a little bit, we're joined by two of Maryland's youngest state delegates, Joe Vogel and Jeffrey Long Jr. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. Just want to ask you a couple questions. You know, as young lawmakers, what are some of your priorities going into this legislative session, and how are you guys feeling here at Inauguration Day today?
I am just so proud to be a Marylander, so proud to be a Democrat, and so proud to be a Wes Moore supporter. This is a very historic day for our state. And to answer your first question, I am eager to support Governor Moore's agenda. You know, Wes Moore has spent his entire career fighting for young people, making sure that young people have greater opportunities, and that's his agenda as governor, to make sure that we're leaving no Marylander behind. And in so many ways, that's about young people, making sure that every person in our state, every young person in our state, whether you're from Baltimore City or Gaithersburg or Hagerstown, that you have the opportunity to get ahead and have a better future.
Talk about the history of this moment today. I mean, Wes Moore being the first African-American governor in state history, only the third in the nation's history. Talk about just that moment for you.
It's a great surreal feeling, being just a few steps away from the largest port for the transatlantic slave trade, and now with a black man occupying Government House. It's a great feeling. You can feel the excitement, you can feel the energy. Not only that, but he's not just black, but he's qualified. And I'm just so thankful for what he's going to bring to our state and leaving no one behind.
And the youth aspect, I mean, you all are the youngest delegates right now coming in, and Wes Moore will probably be one of the youngest governors in the history of the state. Talk about the youth aspect that you all will bring to the table.
Look, I ran for office because I recognize that this is a once-in-a-generation moment, and that the challenges we're facing right now are going to impact us for the rest of our lives. And here we're making decisions right now that are going to have consequences for generations to come. I think Wes understands that, right? That's why he ran for office as well, recognizing the challenges of this moment, and I'm just really excited to get to work with him.
Sure.
Two long tables not reflected what we are and who we are and what we look like, and so I'm so thankful that Joe and I now have this seat at the table, not just for us, but paving that pathway for future generations to come.
Sure.
And one last question before we go, guys. Wes Moore has promised a lot heading into, or let me rephrase that, he's made a lot of promises during this campaign, wants to get a lot done in his first 100 days. What are you all going to do in the legislature to support him in that effort?
Look, I think he has an ambitious agenda, but I think the ambition of that agenda meets the challenges of this moment. And I think we are going to have a really intense and exciting 84 days. But if I can tell you one thing about Maryland government and the Maryland legislature, is that we get things done and we deliver. And I think, look out for the next 84 days. I think we're going to bring that ambitious agenda into reality.
And Jeffrey, your plans?
Our great speaker said yesterday that in the previous administration, we didn't have collaboration nor communication. You can already tell today that we're in communication and collaboration with this new administration, and so we're very excited about the possibilities that can come to pass because of this new administration.
Well, there you have it, Mr. Vogel and Mr. Long talking with us earlier today, and we have more from U.S. Representative Steny Hoyer in this half-hour special where we talked to him about Wes Moore, and he was one of the first people to actually endorse Wes Moore. So back to you, Mark.
Leonard, just a quick question. You've talked really over the last couple of weeks about the historical moment that's taking place here. You just, the delegate that you guys interviewed earlier talked about just a couple of blocks away or where slaves were bought and sold. And then now we're going to have an inauguration of the first black governor of the state of Maryland. I mean, what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, this is, as you just mentioned, I mean, blocks away from where slaves were sold. I mean, to the 63rd governor of Maryland, it's unreal to see this moment. And the fact that Maryland has its first, and there have been many before him who've run for office. There have been several African Americans who've run for higher office, and Wes Moore was able to break through. And remember his background. I mean, this is a young man who lost his father at a very young age, had some brushes with the law, turned his life around, went to the military, became a Rhodes Scholar, ended up writing a best-selling book, and starting a business, running the anti-poverty organization Robin Hood, and now he is the 63rd governor of Maryland. And that is an amazing feat when you really think about it. And as we talked about earlier, Mark, in earlier telecasts, you know, he's being mentioned as a presidential contender. He hasn't even taken office yet. So this is a gentleman with big dreams. And we can't forget his running mate, Aruna Miller, who's the first Asian American lieutenant governor in the history of this state and the second female to be lieutenant governor. That's history right there in the making.
Leonard and Fleming live from Annapolis. Thank you so very much for that. Well, we've certainly learned a lot about Governor-elect Wes Moore in the past few weeks, but what do we know about Lieutenant Governor-elect Aruna Miller? Leonard just spoke about her briefly. Miller will also make history today, and she will become the first woman of color and an immigrant to hold the role as lieutenant governor. She was born in India and became an American citizen. Miller got her civil engineering degree from Missouri University of Science and Technology. Now, she started working as a transportation engineer of local governments in California, Hawaii, Virginia, before moving to Maryland and working with Montgomery County Department of Transportation. The people voted for Wes Moore and Aruna Miller. We want to hear from the people. Randy Bass has been with onlookers all morning long as we get ready for this historic inauguration. Randy, what's the energy like out there? I know more people are starting to gather.
Yeah, Mark, good morning to you here from Annapolis. The crowd here is buzzing. People by the dozens are coming off of shuttle buses we just saw moments ago here to outside the State House. Many, many people here are lining up and sitting down, grabbing their seats. Some overflow seating, rather just standing room at this point. Really nowhere else to stand for people who are here today. We've talked to multiple people who say they're excited to be here. We even talked to a few Baltimoreans who told us they never thought they would see a black governor of Maryland.
Meant the world for us, you know, as black business owners, and just black people in general. You know, that there's one of us now, you know, in the State House.
Everything that has happened from, especially being a Baltimorean, from Freddie Gray, seeing what happened there, Baltimore has its pain, its crime, its campaign against black boys, the squeegee kids, so much. There's just this narrative. People know Baltimore from The Wire, but then to have the optimism that the Wes Moore campaign brought to the state of Maryland, but specifically to Baltimore City, which has just been in so much pain, leaving no one behind. It's not just words, it's a movement.
Yeah, the people we talked to, you just heard from them, they told us that they are actually small business owners in Baltimore, and during the pandemic, Wes Moore and his wife Dawn actually came out to help them during that time. So they say they're excited to be here today to support the people who supported them during a really tough time, and that was a while ago, and now they're here years later. Wes Moore actually elected governor at this point. A lot of time has passed since then, so they say they're excited to just be here today to support people coming from all over the state today. We've heard people getting on buses from Hagerstown, from the Eastern Shore, from all walks of life, from all across Maryland, just to be here today to support the governor-elect, soon to be governor of Maryland. Be sure to keep it here with DC News Now all morning long and into the afternoon, where we'll bring you live team coverage of today's historic events. Mark?
Randy Bass, thank you very much, live from Annapolis. We will certainly have much more coverage right here on DC News Now. As you can see, final preparations are continuing for the inauguration of the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland, and his name is Wes Moore.